Freedom fighters, I'm coming back at you with another Manic Monday. And I've been spending all weekend, going over this whole Charlie Kirk thing. And I just did basically a breaking news video on Wednesday when it happened. We talked a little bit, about it further on Friday. And I kind of wanted to, I was waiting for things to unfold to get a full picture and kind of disseminate all the information and all the crazy theories going on. So that's what this video is going to be focused on. It's going to be on, all the conspiracy theories and, crazy stuff going on. So let's just hop right into it, man. Um, Charlie was asking, he was getting to ask some questions towards the end there. And, one of the main, I guess, issues and differences I had with him was his, pro Israel stance. And, that's kind of like what Nick has been going back and forth with him at. And we'll probably get to him later because they got stuff going on with him. They're trying to blame it on him. I guess we'll just talk it about now. They're trying to blame it on Groypers and stuff like that. That ain't it, but they took down this clip of Charlie talking about like, yeah, the ADL has been a main sponsor of silencing conservatives, and they have been a proponent of open borders and the globalism, and they have been, pushing all this counter conservative beliefs. They've been the pushers of a lot of these issues. And even like Laura Loomer and prominent other Jewish, political activists have admitted this exact same thing. They're like, I don't know, why there's this such a, gigantic, leftist, viewpoint from modern day Jews, I guess is what it is. They're very rarely conservative. So he started looking into that, and after seeing Candace Owens' tribute, which was, great, and like I said, over the last few days, I've kind of changed my opinion of them, and Candace did a big job of that. I talked about normalizing people or humanizing people, seeing them in a different light. And when she posted, the conversations they had back and forth in the videos of them, singing karaoke to a Yay song, and him, sending pictures and stuff, trying on sunglasses and stuff like, hey, which one looks cool, and stuff like that, and just his overall attitude. I mean, he seemed like a bright, generous, soul, and that's what's to be missed, regardless of your disagreements, or of his political persuasion or not. But yeah, he started saying stuff like that. And he said, I've been to that Gaza border. I've been to the Israeli border. And he's like, that place was on lockdown. And we've seen former IDF soldiers, when October 7th happened, said, they don't understand how it happened. People have said, they used to get countless false positives of, birds crossing the borders, or birds landing on the gates or whatever. And they're like, we would have seen that coming miles away. And then the fact it went on for, what was it, 6 or 7 hours? It's questionable. And then just a coincidence, they've, you know, just passed levels that you can't criticize Israel. That's all coming in now. They shut down that video of Charlie Kirk, and they also passed not to release the e-file. So this is, putting up a good distraction, for that. But news reports were also coming out that criticisms of how Bibi Netanyahu was like one of the first people to comment, and he's been constantly commenting on it. And they also said that someone within the White House said that when Bibi and the Israelis visited the White House, they were caught planting listening and tracking devices everywhere. What now? Why would our greatest ally do that? And all the other conspiracy theories going on. The pictures doesn't look like the guy that they caught. And I'm gonna go further into this. I mean, you can. My final verdict of what's going on here will be towards the end, so stick around to get it because it's probably gonna sound a little different from the information that I'm presenting. But yeah, they came out with all these pictures, and then they did like AI rendering and sharpening of the photos because the photos are all blurry, which supposedly they had. The campus had like 280 or 2080p um, cameras. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but there's also a high definition, high quality camera that was right in front of Charlie Kirk while he was doing the interview. No one's seen that footage. There was a drone flying around that no one's heard of. What happened to that footage? And then after the event happened, the police never secured the scene. They never the crime scene was tampered with. There was people going into the tent, stealing hats and shirts, and then supposedly people from his own team members came in there and disassembled cameras on the back of the tent and all this stuff. Um, so the pictures of the suspect of Tyler Robinson, don't match up. One of the pictures when I saw it, I was like, man, I know that guy. Where do I know him from? And I remembered it. It looked like this guy, Rico DeWild from Life Below Zero, is I think a National Geographic or Discovery show in Alaska, and that dude's a hunter. he sure knows how to operate a 30 6. But I'm in no way saying defaming Rico or accusing him or claiming him. I'm just saying the photos looked more like him than of Tyler. But there's all this other stuff coming about the book. There was a book of Assassination of Charlie Kirk that came out the day before. Now I think that one's been pretty debunked because people were coming out and saying that you can list books and you get to choose the day, basically the what am I looking for here, the publishment day. But what is weird is there was another song that came out, Charlie Kirk Dead at 31, and supposedly that was like a month ago, and all it was these, weird sounds and distorted audio. Um, so then you got the conspiracy theories of the guards and stuff like that. You've seen the guy in the white shirt giving the hat signal, and then there's the cross-armed bodyguard right next to him that appears to have something in the hand. People are saying he did it, under his arm. There's a guy in the crowd that's way too blurry back behind him that looks like he's, holding some, sort of small firearm, where people are saying like, is some kind of one of those like cell phone guns or something like that, like a foldable. And I still haven't heard about an autopsy report. Like, what's the actual bullet they recovered? We haven't got any confirmed info on the bulletproof vest theory and the splatter of the round. Maybe that's what hit his neck. The trajectory of where it came from. Was it truly a frontal shot? Did it come from the side? I know everyone has their theories, but as of yet, I haven't heard any official news. Which just goes by the way, Dan and Cash and Pam and all them, again, have just been uncoming forward. They need to lay down, the FBI's point of view of what actually happened and let us know step by step and where this stuff comes from. It's all jumbled apart and it never makes sense. And that's what creates these conspiracy theories. And then you got, the distractions where everyone's like, okay, if Tyler's the guy, there's got to be something bigger at play. And, you got this George Zinn who was at 9/11 and they were doing interviews of him viewing 9/11. And then he's at this event. And then when it goes down, he starts saying, shoot me. Just shoot me. and creating a distraction, and someone like tackles him to the ground. The cops grab him, haul him off, and that was the first pictures of the older guy where everyone's like, "That's the shooter." No, it wasn't him. But he created a distraction to let the guy run off. And then you were seeing other people in the crowd running with pistols, or what appears to be pistols. And there was reports of that, and people getting caught with BB guns and stuff like that. Like, what is that? That looks like a textbook distraction, or something goes there. But anyway, man, as far as Tyler Robinson goes, I do believe it's him. We didn't get a dead Transformer like, I expected. I expected, a pre-dawn raid where they kill some mentally ill Troon, and, they don't have any family or anyone to fight for him on his behalf, and then that would have been it. That we wouldn't ever heard their story. So this guy, his dad turned him in, and I can't remember if he's a pastor or if the pastor also turned him in. Again, not real clear, but Tyler Robinson had pleaded not guilty and is supposedly not cooperating at this moment. So, I want to hear it from him. I want to hear what happened. There's theories out there. People say they've had a rift, and his dad turned him in for the $100,000 reward. I want to hear that from him. I want to hear, of course, he's going to lie, though, if he thinks, he can escape this. Supposedly, they have text messages between, his Troon roommate, his supposed boyfriend, which turns out, I believe they said the name was Luna. So that excludes the previous theory of this guy Omar and whatever happened to him. The text messages of this Omar guy saying, "Oh, Charlie Kirk's coming to the campus, and I hope someone evaporates him, and stay tuned, something big is coming." And then, yeah, we all know what happened. What, has the FBI looked into him? Have they said anything about him? And I kind of want to go off into, like, where does this lead? What happens? Like I've said before, man, the country is beyond divided. We all know where it's going. I saw this message from Jesse Kelly, who's he runs a show, some kind of podcast or political radio, something like that. And he said, I live next to two Democrats who he saw celebrating this event. He couldn't believe, what happened, and or that they were doing this. And I'm like, is it any surprise? And Stephen Miller came out as well. He's like, I'm surprised how many of these high-level officials and people within our government and military have been celebrating again. All brought to you here first by Freedom Fighter. I've told you, the military, this deep state government and everything has pure contempt for you. They hate you. They want you dead. They were, they've been locking up MAGA supporters and anyone, who is resistant to government and going against the agenda, all the stuff. But, yeah, we're at war. They want you dead. And, I saw this clip of Lindsey Graham talking on another thing. He was talking about Putin and how, we tried to roll out the red carpet and that didn't work. And he's talking about going to war with foreign countries. And it's like, where is your focus? The war is right here. Why are you still going on about other stuff? And talking about, this whole thing where they're like, I can't believe they're celebrating, his death. Well, Lindsey Graham has talked before about taking out Putin. We've celebrated deaths. Wasn't it Trump who did the whole rollout of, we got Baghdadi, he died like a dog, cried to his mama, Baghdadi, that's what he said. And Osama bin Laden and these recent Hamas leadership. And I know you're going to say, well, that's not a comparison because they're terrorists. But it goes back to what I've talked about, why I named my channel what it is. We are the freedom fighters, and one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. And that's what they view you as. So don't be surprised when they're celebrating. They view you just as you view a Osama bin Laden or a former foreign adversary. And we got to start acting like it. I saw this other guy on the Pearly Davis podcast, and I don't know who this guy was, never seen him, but he was basically like laying it out, and he's like, we have two positions here now. It's the fork in the road, and we either start fighting this and realizing the danger we're in, or we just roll over and die. And Elon Musk said the same thing. At this point, it's like fight or die. And people don't know, and this is going to lead to further civil unrest and all this stuff we talked about it, the Planeteer database system, the Israeli Project Lavender, and it's going to lead to the cyberpunk, dystopia, locked down in your cage and your your own nothing and be happy dystopia, further degradation of our liberties and our freedoms, and the total surveillance state and the loss of your rights and freedoms. I mean, that's been the theme of the channel and where we're headed. And look where we're at and look at where we're going. So yeah, man, I think I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think. Did I cover all the conspiracy theories? There are more. Yeah, I didn't touch on every single thing, but let me know if there's something I missed there that you think is more damning evidence and points into another direction. I'm willing to talk about it or explore that route. But till the next one, you know what it is, man. We are on our own. Nobody's coming to save us. So get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom fighters out.